Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is Dr. R. Beitman, and I am super excited to introduce to you Ryan Diener. Now, I have known Ryan since 1995, so that's 25 years. And I know we look like we're 25, but we weren't when we met. And so he is definitely a dear friend of mine, but also a very trusted colleague. Ryan is an acupuncturist and expert in traditional Chinese medicine, and his practice is in Frederick, Maryland. And I'll let Ryan introduce himself and tell you a little bit more about his practice and his purpose. Hi, Ryan.
Hey, buddy. How are you? Good to see you, everybody who's a patient or follower of Dr. R. Beitman. We've had great conversation. We've had a great friendship for many years and had great conversations about health and wellness for the last 20 of those, and so it's always great to catch up. So yeah, so as you said, I have a practice in Frederick, Maryland here. Started as many acupuncturists do, single office, single person, doing everything. And then my vision has always been to create a more sustainable and medical model within the field of Chinese medicine. And so a lot of Chinese medicine gets off into a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more esoteric kind of, new age kind of territory, but there's so much research and there's so much science behind it. And so my vision was always to make it more of a medical practice, to be able to bring in colleagues, have, shared experience with them, to be able to help patients more. And so we've grown over the years, and we're a practice of 24 now, and we're seeing lots of patients up here, and helping with a number of really chronic conditions, challenging things that people have to deal with, and helping them through it and helping them reclaim the best versions of their health.
Awesome. I know you're making a big impact down there. And I also know that at times of crisis, specifically a health crisis, our patients, our community, and I would trust that yours is probably pretty large at this point, they look to their health leaders. And of course, they have their medical doctors, rightfully so. But they're certainly going to give them more of the illness slant of things.
Right.
And then our patients have their wellness providers who are going to give them more of an empowerment and wellness aspect. And of course, we've got to pay attention to the advice that the medical profession is giving regarding social distancing and washing hands and looking for signs and symptoms. We're not debating any of that. But what else could our patients, or what are you teaching your patients to do at this time to build up their immunity? God forbid there was an exposure, or even on the other side of this, to come out stronger. Because, my message has been, in the past, if somebody wasn't taking care of their health, they may say, you know what you do and I do what I do. But now more than ever, our health and our choices and our behaviors will impact the community at large. And we see that firsthand, that what I do or not do with my health will impact my fellow neighbor. And so what are some of the conversations and insights that you're sharing with your patients? I've been breaking it up for these interviews into 3 categories, Ryan: eat well, move well, and think well. And we always start with think well, because our thought process is going to dictate our behaviors, which will then dictate our results. And before you answer the question, I was actually speaking with my wife last night about this, and she's a therapist, and she said, wow, that's really cerebral. Like, what about their feelings? What about their feelings? And it's true, like thoughts and feelings. Actually, thoughts become feelings, and she would say no, feelings become thoughts. But I'll let you sort of address that piece of the puzzle, and what you're telling people at this point, or what you're telling yourself.
Yeah, sure. So, I think it's a good insight that the relationship between thoughts and feelings are so intermingled, and one of the things that we talk about from a Chinese medicine standpoint is always this yin yang relationship, the internal and the external. So the feelings are the internal and the thoughts are the external. And so your thoughts are the things that you are actively pursuing. Your feelings are the things that are happening, so that's an internal relationship. And so which one leads depends on the individual. So some people are more cerebral, and so their thoughts can affect their feelings. Some people are more emotional, and so their feelings can affect their thoughts. And so what we want to do is allow for the flow between those two to occur, And so what we're telling people is, you know, to really pay attention to how you individually respond to things like this. So there's plenty of things on the internet, on social media, that you can see that say you have to be positive, you have to think like this, you have to do this, and that doesn't work for everybody. You know, it's easy to say, it's hard to do. And then there's other people that are saying, you know, feel what you feel and just let it be. And for people that are really, you know, mental oriented, cerebral oriented, that doesn't really work either, because it makes you feel stifled. You feel like you have no control. And so there's a relationship between the two. And so what we're telling our people is, be honest with yourself, pay attention to your thoughts and your feelings. And then when you have an opportunity to recognize something that is positive, pay attention to that, put emphasis on that. And so, you know, it becomes a little bit more of a just relational thing from our standpoint. I mean, we're doing all the other things too that a lot of people in our field are doing. You know, limit your news intake. You know, there's a whole component of how many times you hear the same message over and over again. This is like marketing. You know, so if you're watching news over and over and over again, that message, it's not just, even though it's one message, the fact that you're hearing it 7 or 8 times magnifies the intensity of it. And so you want to just catch up briefly and then let it go. You know, you have to be able to let go of this ongoing dialogue around this COVID-19, because we all know at this point what's happening. So, you know, get your little update and then let it go. It's not changing between now and 8 o'clock. You're going to be watching the same thing. You know what I mean? So, so that's just a practical piece of advice that we're telling people, is news in very small increments. Don't be ignorant of it, but don't put so much emphasis on it that you are letting that intensity take over that mind body, that mental emotional connection.
Sure. That was probably you're probably the 8th practitioner that I've interviewed, and that has shown up in all 8. And
Yeah.
it's, you know, they know what they're doing. It's addictive. Like people can get addicted to, you know, what's bad now.
Yeah.
And I actually spoke to my mom this morning, and, you know, she told me the 4 channels that she's been watching. And I said, it's time to, like, just check in the morning, maybe check in at the end of the day, get the headlines, and don't get wrapped up, because they'll pull you down and drag you around.
Yeah, for sure. You know, it gets back to the same kind of, you know, sympathetic nervous system response that you talk about, that I talk about, this whole fight or flight component, where your mind is going to much more easily hold on to negative thought process, because that's how you are going to self-protect. And the reality of the situation is, if we can really put our emphasis on recognizing the positive, recognizing that, you know, even though this is a terrible situation that we're all dealing with, the reality is it's slowing us down. It's giving us an opportunity to get outside more. I'm in charge of gym class with my son. And so 2:30 in the afternoon, we go outside and play basketball, or go for a run or something like that. 2:30 in the afternoon on a weekday, that would never happen normally. So there's certain things that, if you can, you want to just allow to be good, and that because they are. And just because it's different doesn't, you want to put the emphasis on that.
God, it's so insightful. And yeah, to have this attitude of gratitude, and like eventually you're going to go back to work, and you're not going to be able to play basketball at 2:30 in the afternoon
Right.
with your son. And you may actually look back and be like, wow, that was really a special time that we were able to do that. I mean, I don't know the last time you and I have been able to have a conversation in the middle of the week, or we've never even done one of these. And so there is a lot to be grateful for. I mean, just think about the fact that, like, you're in your home, like, you're comfortable, you have food, you
Yep.
have safety, you have a backyard. Like, there have been other points in history where humanity has faced grave dangers, whether it be wars or other horrific things, and they didn't have that certainty. At least you have the certainty of your bed, your home, your family, the health, and the nutrition. And so that alone, your basic needs are met. And you can focus on that, and that should set you at ease, even in a time of unease. So, great insight. So let's move forward, Ryan. The next thing I want to talk about is move well. That's the second category that we lump wellness into, and that basically refers to the physical body. and how we use it or move it. What would you say to your clients right now who are working from home and want to remain healthy or get healthier regarding movement? I know you've been an athlete your whole life, so this is at your, true to your core.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that, there's an interesting take on this. So one of the things is that we're dealing with this respiratory, scare that everybody is concerned about. And so the emphasis on the immune system and boosting your ability to respirate is actually of more importance now than ever. It's no different than what we've all been telling each other and everyone that we come across for decades. The more you move, the better health you're going to have. And so how we get to that place is really, really valuable, meaning, can you do something every day, even if it's for only 20 minutes, even if it's for 30 minutes? You have to start somewhere and just allow your body to activate so that you can get some of the benefits of the increased circulation and oxygenating your tissues and all of the things that we know about. But the thing that's interesting for me is that one of the areas that we talk about a lot in our practice is breath work, is what's called qigong, which is kind of like, if you're familiar with yoga, it's the Asian version of a yogic practice. It's movement that's tied to breath work. And more often than not, the recommendations that we make around this are not really taken super strongly, because it's not part of our culture. It's not how we were brought up. Now, if you tell somebody to go and intensely run or intensely, weight train for 30 minutes a day, they can wrap their head around, oh yeah, that's healthy, that's healthy, that's healthy. But the Eastern cultures have for millennia put so much emphasis on breath work, and you can, at your desk without moving, do so much to improve your respiratory function, to improve your immune function, by knowing a few basic breathing techniques and just doing them every half an hour for 30 seconds. And not even moving, you physically moving, but moving internally, moving your lungs, moving your respiration. And there's a whole component of how much that not only improves your immune function, but also your cognitive function, your alertness, your digestive function, your circulatory system. So much ties back into basically gasotransmission, the ability of your body to transmit gas throughout it, gas going out, gas going in. I don't want this to degrade into that kind of conversation, but you get the picture.
So I'm going to put you on the spot. Let's give them a tool. So can you show me one of those simple breathing exercises that only takes 30 seconds, or
Yeah.
sort of outline that?
Yeah, sure. So this is spring, so it's sinus season. So one of the techniques that we give a lot of our patients. So I'm in the Northeast also. We're pretty close, a couple states apart, and so as I'm sure it is with you, the seasonal allergies are a big problem here.
Yeah.
So the breathing technique that regulates the immune system as it relates to the sinuses and lungs and respiration is humming. And so the way that looks is you take a deep breath in, and on the exhalation, you just close your lips and you hum lightly through your nose. And what you'll feel when you do that is a little vibration right on your cheeks. And that's good, because it's essentially like a small breakup of what could be congestion and phlegm, and you don't want any kind of mucus to harden, right? The part of the thing with getting back to the COVID is the phlegm is hardening in people's throats, and that's why it's so dangerous. So the same thing happens with your sinuses. So it's very, very simple. It's just, and there's a physical movement that goes with this too, but because we're sitting and doing this, I'm just going to give you the breathing part of it. So it's literally just, and because we're all working at home, you can do this and you don't even have to worry about the person next to you.
Your wife's gonna walk in and be like, "Are you okay?" So is the air coming out of your nose when you're humming?
It is.
It is. but that sound creates with your lips closed creates a vibration.
That's right. That's right. So it's there's tons of breathing techniques and there's
Sure.
tons of breath work and there's, we could take this in a lot of different directions, but this is just a practical one specifically for sinusitis sufferers.
Great tip. Yeah, another doctor was talking about box breathing, where you just simply breathe in for 2 seconds, you hold it for 2 seconds, and you breathe out for 2 seconds, or 4 seconds, four, four, and
Yeah.
four. And you do that 4 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's something people can go on YouTube and look up. And your comment about it being cultural is really interesting too, because sometimes it's the little things that make such a big difference. And if oxygen is certainly the fuel for life, if you look at how they're keeping people alive who are dealing with COVID, they're hooking them to oxygen or putting them on ventilators so they can get oxygen. So it is the fuel for your tissues. So why not fill the lungs up, and why not fill the breath up, especially if you're in that sympathetic fight or flight? You're doing a lot of shallow breathing. You're not using your diaphragm. You're not filling your lungs up. And the way that I see the lungs is they're like a pitcher, and you want to fill them up from the bottom up. And if we're doing a lot of this short accessory breathing, we're not even filling up our lungs and working to our capacity. And this is why we do feel so good after a workout. Awesome tip, Ryan, in the realm of movement. Let's move on to chemistry and nutrition. And so everybody knows what they should be doing. We all know we should be exercising, we should be eating fruits and vegetables. And really the purpose of these interviews is to give more why, and to give the inspiration to say, hey, I'm going to make a better choice today. So I'd love to hear how you're teaching your practice about nutrition, especially during this time.
Yeah. So one of the things that's coming up a lot right now is that people are home. They're not going out to restaurants. They're not getting takeout. They're not getting anything that is already prepared for them. So much right now is about cooking. I mean, we put a lot of emphasis on this anyway, because and I don't know, maybe some of your other guests have talked about this too, but the relationship between it's nice to have your food prepared for you. I like to go out too, I think that's great. The food that you make yourself not only has less ingredients, less chemicals, less oil, less butter, less fattening things in it. Your portions are going to be less, because in a restaurant they want to wow you, so they put so much food on your plate, right? And on top of that, when you make something for yourself, as much as it's a hassle, there is an emotional connection to that as well. So there is something about nourishing yourself, feeding your soul, that is well documented in a lot of different sources. And so, we're just encouraging people to not eat crackers and cheese, or, because this is an opportunity. You're home. This is an opportunity to explore your kitchen a little bit, cook, find things that you can make, practice them so you get faster at making them. And then what's going to happen is you're going to come out of this potentially with a few tools, so that when we do get super busy again, you're going to be able to say, oh, I made that while I was on quarantine and I loved it. Now I can whip it up in 20 minutes, as opposed to your mind is so full when we're busy that you can't actually step back and go, where do I start making this new recipe? So the why for me around this is like, this is an opportunity to open up what's happening within our bodies through action. The action is cooking. The action is cooking. If you look at just caloric intake by itself at a restaurant versus the same meal that you would make for yourself, it's hundreds of calories more in a restaurant.
Sure.
And so the idea is just, what can you do? How can you hone this skill just a little bit to help you long term?
God, I had so many thoughts while you were talking. The first is, I just love, and I think it's because of your training, your background, and your philosophy, you bring the energy talking to everything. And there is an energy to food. And it's the difference between buying an apple pie that may be delicious from the food store and your mom making you an apple pie, because we know there's the energy of love in mom's apple pie.
Yeah.
And so when you're cooking for your family, you're actually infusing it with the energy of love. And there's something very real to that. But also like, everybody's giving out so we have little small children.
Mm.
So what an amazing opportunity to do something with them. Like during the week when we're working, like, oh my God, I just got to rush and get something into their bodies. Like we can actually like go online, you can find a new recipe. You can give them a whole math lesson just by cooking a recipe.
Yeah.
And, and the two of you, and I've seen your posts on Facebook, so I know that you've been cooking as a family, which I think is amazing. But yeah, like looking at it like that, like okay, this is only going to be a short amount of time that we can actually like take the time to cook something new, like you said, and it's an activity. It's something that we can do to fill our time. Wow, great, 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 great tips. Are there any specific foods right now that or ingredients that you're including in your meals at home that have benefits?
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot of different spices that are really good right now. So one of the main things with any kind of respiratory issue or immune issue is you actually want to sweat a little bit. And that's why the exercise piece is so important. Um, I know I really spent most of the time talking about breathing when we talked about movement, but having a little bit of a sweat each day is important. So things like cayenne are actually really good right now. If you can handle spice, you don't want to go crazy, but a little bit, enough that'll actually, open up your sinuses a little bit, give you a tiny little bead, on your bald head if you have one. Something that's a little bit spicy is really good. If you can't handle spice, then using cinnamon, using nutmeg, using things like that, ginger, fresh ginger is really good to open up the pores of your system. Garlic, of course, as I'm sure has been said, garlic is very immune building. Anything along those lines is very good to include as part of your diet. Springtime, we're always home, pushing fruits and vegetables. I mean, we do all the time anyway, but especially in the spring, one of the things that you can get delivered to your house now is you, some of the local farms have community supported agriculture boxes, and this is their time. This is the time that they actually need to be supported. And so they're going to be bringing to you a box of whatever is the freshest that's coming out of their garden. So those kinds of foods are very powerful for your immune system, because the way that we talk about it from a Chinese medicine standpoint is they have the shelf life has been, you're getting it fresher. The sooner you get it from ground to your ground, which is your digestive system, the more powerful that the nutrients in those foods are. So this is the time to really utilize and take advantage of some of your local farms and local community supported agriculture.
Sure, you can just go online and Google CSA and local CSA, and you'll every community has it. Definitely in New Jersey, and I'm sure in Maryland too.
Mm.
Wow, I think this was a true gem and treasure for both of our communities, and I'm really glad that we did this. You're one of the most positive people I've ever known, and so I want to leave our tribes, our communities, with just some positive insight, and whether it be a quote or a thought space that you have right now, or that you're sharing, or that you're using internally. What would you say to people who are listening, who are maybe facing some fear, anxiety, and uncertainty right now?
Well, yeah. I mean, I like one word, one word mantras, because with one word you can really get the essence of what is important, and you can focus on it. I always have a hard time remembering music lyrics and quotes anyway, so I just keep it simple. So the word that I'm really putting a lot of emphasis on right now is resiliency. I just feel like this is a time that is hard on everybody. You're a small business owner. I'm a small business owner. I mean, both of our businesses are closed. We have no, we have staff that can't work. We have patients that want to see us that we can't see. We're all worried about actually getting this particular condition, because you can't be, if you don't watch, if you watch any TV, you're going to be worried about getting this condition. And so, you want to build resiliency into your life in a way that says, my body is resilient, I can handle this. My mind is resilient, I can handle this. My emotions are resilient, I'm going to get through this. And knowing that everything is a cycle and we're going to move through this. And the more that you strengthen yourself in times of challenge, the more resilient you actually become. It's like, you know, here's my baseline, and then I go through a challenge, and then boom. Nobody wants to go through a challenge, but we don't have a choice, right? So how we approach that, whether we approach it with the mindset of resiliency, where we're going to actually raise our standard at the end of this, or whether we approach it with the mindset of woe is me, and we lower our resiliency as a result of this. Resiliency is key. So I want to stay with the positive side of that, and I hope you guys do too.
Yeah, I think, you know, even as a culture, Americans, we're just tough. You know, we are a tough people, and I love that term resilience. In fact, that was one of the slides that I did in my I did a 45-minute presentation for my practice right after all this hit, and I'll put it in the link so that when this goes out to your practice, they can watch it if they want. And one of the slides was resilience. And I just got this image as you were talking about resilience. Think about during a hurricane when the newscasters out there on the on the shores of, let's say, South Florida, and you see those beautiful palm trees bending, and the leaves are all kind of stretched out. And then what happens after the storm leaves? Boing.
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
look beautiful again. So the ability to bend but not break. So it's okay to bend right now. It's okay to feel what you're feeling has been the message, but just don't break. Know that you're going to come back. And there we go. So thank you, Ryan, for making this time available. And you are definitely a gift, and your patients are definitely lucky to have you. I can say that. And we got to do this more often.
Oh, for sure.
But not under these circumstances.
Yeah, please no.
All right. Well, you have an awesome, healthy day, and we will talk soon.
Yeah, buddy. Thank you. See you guys.